Hello again, my friends. Once more, welcome back to Leopard Street, the cellar of yet more frustration. Stick about, we'll have a look. This is Leopard Street. Okay, so what's up? Well, this is Leopard Street, as you can see. This is the layout. The little Arduino that controls it, the DCC-EX, lives under there. Yeah, all well and good. This is Sunday. I came down here Saturday. Basically, I did the top and tail of the Saturday video that went out, the little 1500 subscriber special. And I thought, after that, I'm going to get on with something useful. So I came down here. I built another one of these lovely little DTC8 modules. Soldering iron is playing up again. Yeah, the tip doesn't like tinning for some reason. I'm replacing. I'm biting the bullet. I'm getting a Weller of some sort. Yeah, that is not happening just yet. This still sort of works, but it's getting frustrating. Yeah, anyway, never mind. I'll come back to that. The main problem is this. Now, well, not that. That's the monitor. It's this. This little Dell Optiplex 790. Now, let's be fair here. This thing, I bought this about 6 years ago. 5-6 years ago, something like that. I got it secondhand as a refurb. The thing is probably 15 years old by now. Came down here yesterday, pressed the button to turn it on, as I always do. Yeah. Different flashing lights. Now, if you know anything about PCs, and the fact it hasn't bleeped is quite telling. It's called a power on self test. And it did that. Well, CPU fan failure, hard drive fan failure. The fans are running. I know that because I can hear them. I've looked this up. This apparently means it's dead, Jim. So, yeah, slight frustration. That controls the layout. This is where JMRI runs. So without that running, the layout ain't working. So yeah, that's interesting. I do have a spare PC. I originally bought this one for my little office section upstairs. Money was a bit tight at the time, so I bought this thing. It was, I think when I bought it, it was about 100 quid. Came with a monitor. It came with a keyboard and mouse as well, both of which are useless, so I've binned them. But yeah, it worked. It's an Intel i5. It's got 8 gig of RAM in it, and it's ancient. But it's small and it was cheap. Anyway, a couple of years passed. This is before this layout existed. This thing was quite happily running Dingleberry upstairs. And I bought a new one. It's a Dell Optiplex again. It's another refurb. It's a mini tower, not this small form factor one. I got that because I needed one that I could put a graphics card in. This is integrated graphics only. So I got that. And that worked quite happily for a while. Last year, I replaced that. I treated myself. The machine that lives upstairs now is a Dell Alienware and is rather nice. But anyway, that's the one I put all the videos together on. I've been asked a few times why I don't live stream. Basically, this potato isn't. I'm going to turn it off because it's not working. This potato is not up to it. So one of the jobs I've got now, I'm not going to go through all the hardware side of it because it'll be tedious, is replace that with the other PC, which is still sitting upstairs. I've been meaning to bring it down here actually for a while. The job is, well, 3 stages really, I suppose. The first one is replace that with the other PC and get that set up. I need to put Debian Linux on it. I'll need to put JMRI on it. I'll need to put MQTT Explorer. I'll need to put the IDE for the Arduino stuff on it. That'll be one job. The next job is taking that apart, taking the hard drive out of it, plugging it into an enclosure which hasn't arrived yet, so I can take the data off this. A lot of it's backed up. A little network switch up there. There's the cable that goes to my network. This one goes to the PC, and this one goes to the 3D printer. So yeah, so bits of it back. Yeah, my own fault, entirely self-inflicted. It should have all been on my network drive, but it wasn't. So I need to take that because I can extract all the JMI configuration information. I can bring that over. That's the second job. That probably won't be today. The third job is then testing it all, and the testing it is good because that means friends like Cheshire here can move again, because at the moment they can't. All I can do with the layout currently is scenic bits. Now I have got some stuff to get on with, so I might have a play with that. I've got another DTC2 to build as well, but they seem a little bit futile at the minute because while I can build these things, I can't test them because the layout's offline. So yeah. The biggest job I need to do, however, and if I stand back a bit, you'll probably be able to see exactly why. That desk needs clearing. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to catch you all again in a bit when I've got a different PC down here, and we'll have a little look at that. Yeah. Anyway, wouldn't be Leopard Street without something like this. Okay, here's the new one. A complete miracle occurred today. Something that's literally never happened to me before. I went to plug the mouse in and the USB connector went in first time. I mean, this is... it feels wrong, but anyway. It's not powered up yet. I'm having a little bit of a think. This is the monitor from the original one. This has a HDMI connector. Sorry, this has a DV... yeah, this is a DV connector. That wants an HDMI connector. I've been thinking of replacing the monitor for a while, so I think I'm going to do that. I might get myself a wall mount, stick something over there, so I'm going to basically get it off the desk. Clearing the desk nearly killed me, but there we go. So yeah, it's got a little bit more work to do to it. So I think it's going to be a little while before the layout powers up again. So what I'm probably going to do is move on to doing something else. The something else is likely to be building a kit, and that is it's likely to be come out before this one. I'm not going to compile this video until I've got this thing working. So yeah, we're going to leave it at that. So I'll catch you soon. Okay, a few days have passed. I finally, part of it, got the stand for my monitor. The monitor and everything turned up. Turns out ordering something on Sunday for Monday delivery as next day when it says Monday means it'll actually turn up Tuesday or Wednesday. But anyway, so monitor's going to go here. I've been having a little bit of think. This desk is 2 foot deep, and the original monitor sort of sat there. You may have seen it. The replacement is a bit bigger. I've got a 27-inch monitor instead of a 24, and this is a widescreen. So it's going to take up quite a bit of space. So I'm going to stick it vertically. I'm going to put the thing in portrait mode. I'm going to have a little look, and I'm going to see how well that works. The first thing I need to do, however, is set this up. So I just need to have a little look on the instructions. Now I've used the stand. I've used this before, or rather I've used some of these before. I just need to have a little look at how to actually do this. So there's a bit in here. It comes with a clamp, which I'm not using, and a plate like this with a sort of a pad on the bottom of it. It sticks on quite nicely once you've done it. And what I'm going to do basically is put it about there, and possibly even a little bit further back. That's going to sit there, and then I've got this arm which sits on it, and then you can bend this round and you can position things, and it sort of rocks back and forth a bit. So I'm going to have a look at doing that. Now the first thing I need to do, if I can, is find the appropriate screws I need to use to fit into here, and it's not that. So somewhere in here, there are some screws. There should be, according to the instructions, 3 of them, and they're not very big, so I'm hoping they're in here. We'll find out. Let's have a look. Hey, found them. So, yes. Whee! Screws. Right. So these go through this plate into here. And obviously the first one's comparatively straightforward to do. Plus you can just screw them with your fingers, usually. Failing that, I'll use the Allen key. So that's in there. It's going to give me a support. Now, this... Get in there. This whole process has been somewhat frustrating. Now, one of my regulars, Kelly, has pointed out, quite rightly, absolutely rightly, if using, firstly, a DC controller, I wouldn't have had any of these problems in the first place. It's correct. And could I have operated Leopard Street with a DC controller? Yeah, of course I could. People used to. People used to automate DC control systems as well. It's more wiring. You need a lot more sections. You need a lot more switches. You need a lot more relays. Perfectly doable. Brings in its own problems. So that's why I didn't do that. But I could have. She also pointed out, again quite correctly, instead of the system I've got involving a computer, just get a DCC control unit. There's lots of them out there. Hornby's Select or Elite, Gauge Master have got one. There's loads of these things. There's the NEC Power Cab and so on and so forth. They're all useful for different things. However, a lot of them make automation harder. To the point it's actually easier to automate things using DC than it is with many of those systems. Right, next bit I need to do is this piece here. Unscrew this. There's a screw in the bottom of it somewhere I need to do. This is the clamp. So if you don't want to drill a hole in a desk, which I'm going to have to do in a minute, I don't mind drilling holes in desks. I made this desk, so I'm quite happy to drill a hole in it. So if you just get hold of one of these pre-made systems, and lo and behold, thy problems shall go away. Or at least many of them will. Not all, many of them will. One of the problems I've got now is looking for finding a screwdriver I can use in here. I think I've got one around somewhere. A screwdriver somewhere. A screwdriver. As you used to see in some cartoons. That a suitable screwdriver? That might be. Yeah. All fun and games. So yeah, you could use sort of pre-made things, shall we say. Oh, that's good. It's going to come. So there's a screw in here that holds this top piece on. I'm just needing to remove, or at least need to be able to remove. So actually, if I take that all the way out, it might make life a bit simpler. So yeah, I mean, I did look at these systems. I mean, I used to have, a number of years ago, I had a lens DCC system. I had the lens set 100, the base station with the one that looks like a TV remote control with a truly silly number of buttons on it rather than the dial. Essentially, if you're going to go down the lens route, you want one of them and one of the other controllers, really, because one's a lot easier for programming things with. And usually fine. The main reason I'm not using it here is I was in a rented accommodation for a while, couldn't have a layout. All the railway stuff was packed away in the cellar, which worked. I mean, it worked quite nicely. Slight problem. It got wet. Right. So that's going to go in there through a hole and clamp that in. Yeah, it got wet. And when it got wet, what that basically meant was, oh dear. So I think it was about 300 quid that set I got all told. That included some decoders and other bits and pieces. Yeah, scrap. It might have been possible to clean it out. The problem was it had been sat in a plastic box full of water for probably a couple of months before I found out. Slightly annoying, but well, it is what it is. Right, that goes on there. That's just a little sticky pad. Sort of protects the desk, but equally gives you a little musical instrument. Tells you what's going on. Now I need to drill a hole in it, which means I need to find that. So I'm going to go find a drill bit and drill, and I shall return. Right, have the drill. The important bit, safety glasses. Yeah. So I want this pole is going to go there. So I need to drill a hole. The hole I need to drill is a 10mm. Now I'm just having another quick check. There is nothing underneath this. So I can put this on here. Check it works. It does. And drill a 10mm hole. There we go, a little bit more. And a little bit more. There we go. Get rid of that. The desk itself, I'm going to say I made this. This is 8. Just going to reach past. Sorry for the armpit shot there. Anyway, yes. The desk itself is 18mm ply. So, doing this. Here, like so. There's some bigger bits, but yeah, I mean, it's actually before the layout started. Quite a bit before the layout started, actually. I was looking for somewhere to put the 3D printers. I didn't want them upstairs because, frankly, they're noisy. So I decided not to have them upstairs. Let's get rid of this drill before I go any further. Yeah, so I came down here and I thought, I'm going to make a desk. And the desk is 2 small cabinets at either end. Actually, if I put this down here, I'll just show you, see what we've got. So, at one end of the desk, I've got a fridge and some storage underneath it. And the other end, around here, is just more storage. There are some simple brackets that hold it to the wall. They don't really hold it up. It's supported by the bits at the end. There's 2 8-foot by 2-foot by 4-foot lengths of 80mm ply from the deck, which is fairly straightforward. They're joined with some small metal brackets in the middle, which works quite nicely. Let's put this on here like so. Pivot it to make it fit. And now there's a very tedious process while I have to screw this in. Yeah, so I just built my own desk. It was a fairly simple process to do. And it meant I had a reasonable size. It was never designed for the railway. There's a few cutouts in the back so I could put cables down it. It's got 8 sockets above it and 1 underneath it. The one underneath it powering the fridge. Fridge. I mean, why on earth would you have a fridge in your cellar? When we bought this house some years ago, we were renting. So we had, I don't think how long we had. It was several months before we actually moved in. Decorating and other bits and pieces. Because we were renting, I thought, well, why not? We just sort of extended the rent, considered that for a couple of months, and we came here. Then when we did move in, my wife had some medicine that needed keeping in a fridge, and this was before we actually moved in. We came here before the move-in date. So we needed a fridge to keep things in, keep medicines cooled. So that worked out quite nicely. That fridge ended up down here. So in the summer, that fridge tends to hold various goodies. Now, I'm just going to lift all these cables up over the other side of it. That's for the monitor. Right, the arm for this thing. Get this the right way up. So this goes on here, like so. And it's got space in the back there for an Allen key that can be tightened up nicely. Now what I'm going to need to do is position this so the screen can sit where I want it to sit. Actually, if anything, that's going to be... Yeah, no, it's not going to turn the other way. It's not going to do anything. The screen's actually going to be probably a little bit further forward here than I'd actually wanted, but never mind. It is the way this thing goes. Short of putting that further back, which then gets in the way of this. So, yeah. This is where this is going to live now. Tighten this up so it stays put. Slide down and we're all right. There's a little cap that sits on there, like that. Whee! Get on there. Don't have a hammer to hand. There we go. Brute force over ignorance. I tend to have more of the ignorance, it must be said, but there we go. So, what I'm now going to do, I'm going to look at whether I want that there or whether I actually want to move that further back. It wouldn't be too hard to put it there. It's going to move the screen back. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to get this sorted and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, back in. A little bit further back. It'll help. Now, gives me a little bit of space for wiring. The monitor I've got, I can plug the keyboard, the mouse, and all that sort of stuff into. I'm not going to. A couple of reasons. Main one being I've already plugged them into the back of the PC. So somewhere around here there is this, which is a USB port, which does go into the monitor, which is down here. And if I lift this up, see, got a mounting bracket there, which goes... Glad I've got this on a swing out arm. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to fit it, because it's actually got to go up higher than the shelf above in order to fit. So that slides onto there. That's on. There's a little bolt that sits out of the top. The purpose of which is to stop it from falling off or being lifted up. Also helps hold it a little bit. Yeah, it wobbles slightly, but I can live with that. So, that. All the ports are facing this side now as well, which is in some ways good and in some ways bad. And one thing that is extremely infuriating that I've just realised, I'll be back in a minute. I've left the connection lead upstairs. Back in a sec. HDMI lead it came with. Part of the reason I'm having to even do this is the HDMI lead. The old PC had a DisplayPort connector. Now, if you know anything about these things, you'll know the DisplayPort's actually better. Slight drawback being this PC doesn't have DisplayPort on it, or rather it does, but the graphics board I'm using that's plugged into it doesn't. So I need to find... And of course, as with always when you're fiddling around on the back of a PC, it's quite hard to see what you're doing. Somewhere around here there's an HDMI socket. And that appears to be plugged into it now, so that's fine. So that can go back there. Right, plug the power lead in. Down here, I think. That way around or that way around? I don't know. One way around or the other, anyway. So that plugs in there. Right, I can now start trying to sort some of this mess of cables out. Power on? Hey, power's on. So, Monitor switches on. Yes, Amazon Basics monitor. Right. That can then go about there, which is where I want it to be. So, I've got some spare bits. We get loads of spare bits for things like this. So I'm going to put those just down here to start with. I'm going to remove I'm going to remove a lot of packaging, which is going to end up in the bin. In the appropriate bin, at least. I'm going to shift this. I'm going to switch the thing on. I want to see if it actually works. This PC hasn't been used for a while. I'm hoping it works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to be slightly annoyed and I may cry. But there we go. Let's get this all out of the way. Yeah. Now, I realise normal households probably don't have spare PCs and things lurking. I did think, I've got a Raspberry Pi upstairs. I did think I could bring that down and use it. However, if you've seen Wire & Wood as the YouTube channel, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Chris, I think it is. He, apologies if it's not Chris, by the way. He had his running on one of those. Let's turn that on, see if it works. Does it pick it up? Oh, monitor's come to life. It says Dell. Owl mode currently. There we go. That was the first thing I wanted to see. I just wanted to see it worked. Right. Preparing automatic repair. Okay, that doesn't sound particularly promising. What I'm going to do is, if I can get to it, plug a USB stick in. I'm going to tell it to reboot. I hope. Come on, wakey wakey. I plugged a USB stick in, which I want it to switch on from. If I turn that way. Diagnosing your PC. I said reboot. There we go. It hasn't done what it did last time, which is immediately going to restart mode. So whichever key it is I need to get this to work. Come on, wakey wakey. No signal. Oh, that's good. Come on. Wake up. Dell, is it F12 or is it F1? F12. Preparing one-time boot menu. That's what I wanted. Boot USB. See if that'll boot off there. Ooh. Graphical install. This is the bit I wanted. I'm going to put Linux on this machine. Now, I'm aware some people get very... I hesitate to use the word religious, but it's sort of... Actually, if I put the mouse that way, will that help? Yeah. It sort of works. English, United Kingdom. British English. It sort of works. You can use a Windows PC. I mean, this was, and it ran JMRI perfectly well. Then one day came where it did what Windows likes to do. It decided to update itself. And then Linux didn't work anymore. Or the JMRI didn't work anymore. Because the Java system decided not to work anymore. And it was like, okay. So for this, Linux is fine. I can play music on this thing. I can play around like that quite happily. So I'm going to get this installed. I'm going to find a way of rotating the screen and we'll be back. Okay, so we still have a little bit of clutter on the layout. However, I've got to stand back to try and get this all in shot. The new PC is in. Well, the new old PC is in. The new monitor is there. It's taken a little bit of setting up. And this box has the hard drive out of the old PC sitting in it, so I can get everything I need off that. So I brought most of over, but there's bound to be more that needs doing. JMRI is on, and as you can see from the panel, I've got a little bit of work to do because it goes off the side of the screen. However, I can narrow this bit, and it doesn't actually go off the side of the screen by much. But this is why I wanted the thing in portrait. I've got space to have the panel at the top. I can put a throttle at the bottom, and I've still got more space on the screen. I like that. And just to show it all works, I can click that on. Bucky is selected. And the sound. Here we are a little bit. There's Bucky working nicely. Or yes. And off we go. So yes, there's been various bits of fun and games. Linux it's an interesting system. It's one of these things that when it works really, really well. When it doesn't work, it is unbelievably frustrating. The hardest bit, and it took about 2 hours to do it, was to get the screen to work in that orientation. I'll go over what I had to do with that, but it needed changing in about 3 different places. That worked. It's one of these things, Windows makes doing that very, very simple. But think about it, how often do you do it? Linux, you're into editing config files, which is fine once you find out where they live. JMRI bringing its information over from the previous PC, obviously it's stored on that little hard drive, turned out to be quite straightforward when I could find it. For reasons best known only to themselves, the people behind this use a hidden folder. Yeah, once you can find it, it's all there, it's all fairly straightforward. So, yeah. One of the things I do like, my throttle window is no longer off the top of the screen. So, yay, and I think I found out where that lives. So, yeah. I've got quite a bit of configuration still to redo on this thing, but the layout is now running again. Much swearing, much hair pulling. I ain't got that much hair left. But, yeah. So, the layout is now, in theory, operational again. So, I'm probably just going to run a little train. Just because I can. Well, I'm not. I can only really run them at the station at the moment. Running them on the lower level, I've got work to do on that. So actually, yeah, I'm gonna get that bit dealt with first, and then away we go. It's talking to the MQTT server, so I can, if I point to, I don't know, that one, and then find the appropriate point on here. I can move the points. So yeah, bringing all those settings over. There's a folder. Yeah, basically you just copy and drop it back in. Flip side here, I've now got the newer version of JMRI. This is reinstalled. I've got the new version of MQTT Explorer. This is Debian 13. I think I was on 11 or 12 on the previous machine. It runs a lot faster. It's a lot nicer, but yeah. So, old PC, not quite as old as the previous one. Set up, running, but I'm operational again. Some of the bits of fun and games. So if I'll go into it a bit more detail, but I started writing things down. So that top bit is the magical incantation to get a network share to work. This is my my little home drive, my network server. There's more to it than that. You've got to install a package. The amount of online help articles that are of no help because they neglect one key step. Same with this little one at the bottom. xrand r -- output HDMI 1 -- rotate left. That's how you rotate the screen. However, you've got to put it in a couple of different places. Yeah, anyway. That's that. I'm going to leave it at this one. And we're back up and running. It's taken a little while. It's taken a bit of frustration. Hopefully it's going to solve a few other problems as well. I need to rebuild that panel. so that it doesn't. Well, so basically, so it fits this screen now. I've got more screen area to play with. I mean, the idea is I'll be able to have the panel at the top and I'll be able to have things at the bottom doing other things. But instead of the throttle obscuring where all the point settings are, I'll be able to see it all in one go. That's where I'm hoping to get to. That's it for this video. Bleeping computer is all I can say. The old one is, I mean, the old monitor is down there. The old PC, sans its hard drive, is down there. A brief moment to mourn its passing. Yeah, that's that. So yeah, this one's not quite as old, but it's a bit more beefy. I did think about using a Raspberry Pi, and I've got one sitting spare upstairs. I'm wanting this machine to do quite a bit more than just drive the screen, though. So I thought I'm going to have a slightly more powerful machine. But there we go. 70 quid's worth of monitor off Amazon. 20 quid's worth of monitor stand, which is sitting behind it. A spare hole in the desk. You can see it's all down here where I drilled the first hole and then had to move it all back to get the stand to work. But never mind. We're there. I am calm. It is working. Yeah, that's it for this one. Comments, thoughts, more than welcome. Kelly, you have my blessings to start laughing, pointing fingers, and saying, "See, I told you so," over and over and over again. Those of you, Kelly Ashford, if you watch her channel, it's brilliant. She's been telling me since I started this project it's far too complicated and I should just use a normal controller and change the points by hand and just enjoy driving the trains. After this last week, she's got a point. Let's face it, she's got a point. Even if a normal controller can obviously go wrong, but you just unplug it and plug a new one in. Whereas this is yeah. Anyway, never mind. Kelly, never change. Please never change. Anyway, I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Leopard Street, and goodbye.